with me. Walk with me.
Your call has been forwarded to.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's regular City of Cedar Falls City Council meeting for Monday, July 7th. I will now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Cruz,
Here.
Hallbaker, Ganfield,
Here.
Chrisman,
Here.
Dunn,
Here.
Councilmember Hallbaker absent, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And if willing and able, could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And I'll look for a motion for the approval of the regular meeting of June 16th minutes.
So moved.
Motion and seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any agenda revisions?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will now move to public forum. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. If there is anything on the agenda later tonight, please speak at that time on that. But for tonight, anything else related to city business. Okay. Just name and address, please.
Jim Brown on Cottage Row. Council, it's great to be in front of you, Mayor, city staff. I'd like to offer sincere thanks to the City of Cedar Falls and the leadership and the support of this year's Sturgis Falls celebration. As always, it's a fantastic civic and community event. What made this year particularly meaningful was the hard work of a small, dedicated group of volunteers that would not have had this event happen without them. With caution, because I'll unintentionally forget some folks, I did want to point out, acknowledge a few groups and individuals who are instrumental. First of all, the flat-out donors to the Sturgis Falls group. It never ceases to amaze me how generous our community is in giving some pretty big dollar checks. And sometimes you see their names next to the stage where the different performances are taking place. Sometimes you don't. Folks just believe in the community and believe what's happening. And we all get giddy at the end of June just to make sure that the city is off and running with what we are used to. Then there's the volunteers, and this is where I'll forget people because there's just so many involved with what's happening, but we had Lions Club, Rotary Club, UNI Dance Marathon, the Cub Scouts. We had people seemingly screaming online to us, where can we volunteer, where can we help, and how can we pitch in? A few individuals I'll mention by name. One is Matt Morgan, the other is Ben Anderson, and our own Kim Bear. For what we saw on Friday and Saturday nights downtown, I heard phrases like, I got 3 hours of sleep in 2 days. And then also, yeah, we finished up at 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday to make sure Main Street looked like what it's supposed to look like. Then there's the Sturgis Falls Entertainment Group. It's a newly formed nonprofit, 501c3. Deserves special recognition. These folks stepped up during a critical moment of the festival 2 years ago when the entire event was on the brink of collapse. They've since rebuilt and revitalized the event, especially the Friday and Saturday night programming, as everyone knows by now. And now all funding, whether it's donation, gifts, or grants, are all moved through the community, Cedar Falls Community Foundation for transparency's sake. And then there's the Sturgis Falls committees, many of whom had been on the old organization, and they came on board last year and this year. Countless individuals, but if you went to Overman Park and watched the entertainment there and all the different festivities, if you did the kids' tent, the kids' parkway, of course the parade, folks don't know it takes a lot of people to put that parade on, and it's just amazing, those dedicated folks. And what's nice is that, I'll explain a little bit later, but when those folks decided to kick back in last year and again this year, it's not only the old guard that was helping out doing all those various events behind the scenes, but they brought some newer folks on too so it can carry on into the future. You know, they really have the heart of Sturgis Falls. It still matters to them, and they acted on that belief. Once again, I'll give the shout out to Community Main Street and its leader, Kim Bear, and her board of directors. Through various conversations, ideas, volunteers, maybe some challenges, they created an amazing event Friday and Saturday nights. Speaking of which, we heard reports that based on AI and based on the drones floating around, they estimated a total of 13,000 people on Main Street just on Saturday night. Now again, that head count was by drones and photos, but I was told it was probably pretty accurate. And it could have been folks just simply crossing Main Street downtown, or young people, or maybe the young at heart that were in front of the stage. Either way, it was very incredible. And then finally, a special thank you to Pete Downs. If he hadn't stepped up with his time, talent, and dedication, it would not have happened. When it was in peril a couple years ago, serendipitously, there was a meeting of some people that are in the community, and we just said to each other, we can't let this thing fall on its face here, and what are we going to do? And we almost simultaneously said, call Pete. Well, we didn't feel sorry for him because he was in Florida, but Pete said, yeah, I'll go ahead and try to put that thing together. And I truly believe the event would not have happened if it wasn't for Mr. Downs. And of course, none of this works without the support of the City of Cedar Falls, Channel 15, and Denny and his crew. Got a shout out to Public Safety Director Birdie and his crew as well. Tim Smith, Lieutenant Tim Smith, I think was a liaison, did a great job. Along with Public Works, city staff, those roles are very much appreciated. So I'll close with the obvious invite from the Entertainment Board to sit down with city leadership, including this council, share ideas and partner in various ways to plan into the future. Next year will be more fun because it's the 50th year anniversary of Sturgis Falls, so we look forward to keeping this premier celebration vibrant for the next 50 years. And I might just point out as well, there's only one of three surviving founders of the Sturgis Falls some 49 years ago, and the one we know of is, of course, the lovely Rosemary Beach. So, Council, thanks for your time this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thanks, Jim.
And I'll hold off any comments because I believe we have someone else that would like to speak to some of this as well, if you would like to, Rosemary.
Rosemary Beach, Western Home Communities. He stole all my thunder. But I am so glad that you people came and shared Tom Clemick's and Judy Cutler's big surprise and how well it went. I will just say to you that 50 years ago, we were sitting in the depot. I was working, the other people were sitting in the depot. And Tom came and talked about that the state wanted a big celebration for the year that was coming up. The state wanted every town to celebrate. And Judy and I knew each other, Tom Clemick and I. He was on Main Street, you could know Tom. But we were not particularly friends, and I was working, so I was not particularly paying attention. By the time the evening was over and everybody had talked it over, because if you were in the depot, you were in Bill and Shirley's living room, really. And so it was like that thing that's on TV. That's how we got along. And so when we got done, Judy and Tom and I walked out. It was either midnight or 2 in the morning. That depends on what weekend or what day we were. That's how long they stayed open. We walked down the alley. We were headed for Tom to get him home to get down at his business and apartment upstairs. And Judy and I were happily saying, oh, that sounds like really fun. Oh, wouldn't that be fun to create something? Tom said, I'm too busy. I don't want anything to do with it. And I believe that it's Judy who said, oh, Tom, don't worry. You can be president and Rosemary and I will do all the work. Now, that is really how that happened. And it seems kind of simplicity. Simplicity was the name. Judy worked for the city of Cedar Falls. Tom was a business person. I was a secretary at North Cedar School and also working at the depot. And the city was so happy about it that we could do it. We had no money. We had no idea. We had nothing. We had meetings for months, every week. And all the businessmen and all the businesswomen wanted to get in on creating something about making money. So the Boy Scouts, whoever, whatever. So we met. And every meeting, I also was the secretary. I kept the secretary minutes. And the first one we had was a flatbed truck on a Sunday afternoon in Overman Park. And people had such a good time. They'd meet us on the street and say, oh, do that again. Can't you do that? Can't you do that again? Well, we said probably, so we did year 2, and year 3 we said we're done. And the people who were going to do it didn't do it. So about 2 months ahead of things, we were hunting for what we were going to do. So now you know where it is and what is happening. And it was so simplistic because I met people on the street and I'd say, can you do this? Can you do that? Oh yeah, not a problem. Bob and Scott played their guitars in the Women Club's house. No problem, yeah. Just tell us when to be there. Everything was really, really fun. And that's how we wanted to keep it. We had only 2 thought processes. It was to be free for all our time. No, we weren't going to charge for anything. If you wanted to eat something, fine, but we're going to do that. And also that we started having the schools come home. My son was home for his 50th school, and those people have just a wonderful time getting back together. So, in any event, I'm so glad that you enjoyed our party that we built for you. I'm glad you came. I am overwhelmed with the fact that you also helped save it, because a lot of people don't go for 50 years on something like that. It just doesn't happen. I agree that Pete Downs, they let me be on the group. I am not a voting person or in anything, but I get to be the memory from 50 years ago. So it's coming up again. It'll be 50 years, which is unbelievable. I'm certainly not that old. So in any event, I will invite you to next year's. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beach. And without belaboring it too much, because I think everyone there, the last two speakers said enough, but I just want to say genuine thank you to all the volunteers, everyone that made it happen. There's a lot of unpaid labor that goes into making this happen. And just thank you to everyone that made it such a great weekend for the community. So, and to our staff as well, Public Works, Public Safety, put a lot of time in making sure everything was cleaned up, set up. So just thank you to everyone involved. All right, anyone else for public comment? Just name and address, please.
Yep, Gabe Grotehouse, Homeway Drive. Thank you. Yeah, those comments to Sturgis were great. Maybe you could turn the heat down a little next year for 50 years. We had such a good time, but you know, I have a neighbor across the street from me on Homeway, Lois. She's turning 96 today, I think, and Donna Bell Miller, a good friend from church, I think she's 94, and I love talking with these folks about some of the great things Cedar Falls has done over time. They had a lot of vision in their time. They took on issues head on. I'm sure you know what issue I'm here to talk about. And I'm actually inspired when I hear from those who have gone before us, the moments that they were presented with, the action that they took. And I've actually had some good conversation with many in the community about this, conversations I'd be happy to have with any of you. The invite is always open. I would love to talk with any of you about the form of government here in Cedar Falls. We have many signatures we've collected. The conversation has been going on now for just over 65 days since we came before you, but it's really been a couple of years now this conversation's been going on. And I've heard some great things from some of you. I've heard nothing from others of you. And I just want to come before you again tonight and ask that we take this seriously. There's people in our community who are serious about this. I know I'm serious about this. I hope you all, as this governing board, are serious about this issue. I hope you're willing to have open and public discussion about it. That would be my ask tonight. Would we have open public discussion about this issue? There's some actions you all could take. You could choose to call a special meeting to discuss this issue. That might be helpful to have community input. You could come with us and knock doors. Anyone's welcome to come at any point. If you've got a special area, I know some of you guys are campaigning this year. I'd be more than happy to go along. I could bring you to some of the areas we've been knocking. You could share tonight at council updates your thoughts on the change of governance, how it could be a good thing. You can disagree. Maybe you think it's a bad thing. I'd love to hear that from you. You could refer a ballot measure. That's an option you have as a board. What's frustrating to me is that there's still not been a public comment from anyone on this board on this issue. And that's hard. As we're talking to the community, some of you have said other things, some have said nothing. I hope we take this seriously. I hope we can talk about this publicly for our community. There's been some things I've heard from some people in the community, some accusations. I'd like to address those now. One of the most common things I hear from people is an ask. They said, would you collaborate with the city on this? Would you be collaborative? And it almost feels insulting when they say that, because I think we've tried nothing but to be collaborative. I've tried to reach out to many of you. I've said openly, and I'll say it again, I am open to talk with anyone about this. I will collaborate as much as anyone wants to. I've put all my cards on the table. I've put it all out there. There's really nothing hidden here. I would love collaboration on this. So the answer to that is yes, we are willing to collaborate. I've heard people say that this change of government is about one specific person. That is not correct. This is about changing our form of government in Cedar Falls. We care about updating our form of government to work well. I've heard this is about just a vindictive campaign. It's not that at all. We want to see a change here. I've heard claims that there would be some liability involved if you all talk about it. I don't think that's true. There's been a lot of ballot measures. I know last election season, Chase and some from Public Works talked about the local option sales tax. I think the city put out some information on that. Many of you commented on that. That's a ballot measure. You all can comment on that. The Cedar Falls High School, a lot of referendums for the high school, lots of public comments made. Anyone on this committee, anyone on this council, anyone in this city can comment the change of governance. And you guys have the opportunity to do that publicly with the lights on and cameras rolling. Sharing on this will not be a liability issue for the city. One final criticism I've heard that since this is Gabe's idea, we don't want to move forward with it. I've heard people in the community say that, well, since it's your idea, we don't like it. And I said, it's really not my idea. This has been around for a long time. I'm just one of the young people that's maybe crazy enough to go for it and try to make some change. It takes people that are willing to do that. I've heard here that Gabe's angling for something. He's trying to get elected. I want to be abundantly clear, I'm running for nothing. I think there's probably 6 or 7 people in here tonight that are running for things, and best of luck to all of you. I am not running for anything. I'm not running for council. I'm not running for mayor or anything. I want to see this ballot initiative passed. I have no desire to run for elected official position at all. My cards are on the table. I'm willing to engage. I'm willing to seek positive engagement from you all. If you have questions, please reach out. I just want this to be taken seriously. The silence on this is very hard for me to understand why there is not public comment on this issue from you as leaders, from city staff, from the community. You've asked, I've heard you all ask for citizens' engagement. Here is that engagement. It's here. The time is now. We are excited to move forward. I'm excited for positive change. I hope 50 years from now we could sit here and look at some of the positive changes that came because we're willing to, this election cycle, make a positive change for Cedar Falls. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Growhouse. Anyone else for public comment this evening? Just name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Andrew Van Horbaging. I'm in Austin Way. And this is in reference to the handout that you have, hopefully in front of you. It's regarding the eventual appearance of immigration enforcement in Cedar Falls, as they are going to be appearing in a lot of different places, recent issue. This is a request for consideration from the Cedar Falls Mayor and City Council to establish, if not already in existence, a policy statement either internally or publicly distributed that specifies how interactions between our local public safety personnel and ICE are to proceed. This is not an attempt to accuse, criticize, malign, or otherwise direct the CFPD, but rather request that a cohesive plan be understood between the city government and its citizens. We hold our officers and representatives in the highest respect. In confusing times like these, we wish to maintain a high level of communication for all involved. In short, what happens when ICE shows up in Cedar Falls? What happens when they show up at my door? What happens when they show up at Walmart? People are frightened for several reasons, and a statement from our leadership, I believe, would help calm some of those fears. The simple fact is that while our local officials in public safety are well trained, ICE officers are not, and they are not necessarily following the law. With the understanding that I am by no means attempting to tell the CFPD how to do their jobs, the concerns include but are not limited to the following points. I am asking that the City of Cedar Falls adopt a cornerstone judicial warrant policy, which means prohibiting the detention of any individual for immigration purposes unless the request is accompanied by a judicial warrant, not merely an administrative warrant. I'm asking that you prohibit routine status inquiries and a policy stating that officers shall not stop, question, or investigate an individual based solely on suspected immigration status. Furthermore, officers should be prohibited from inquiring about a person's immigration or citizenship status unless it is directly and materially relevant to the investigation of a specific criminal offense and that individual is suspected of committing. I would like that we cease voluntary cooperation agreements, if there are any, formally decline to enter into or renew any Section 287G agreements that deputize local officers as federal immigration agents. In addition, moderate use of local facilities for detention and interrogation depending on what is safest for the detainee. Meaning, keeping them local might be better for family to locate them throughout their due process versus being hauled farther away to a facility where they may be inaccessible. I'm asking that we restrict information sharing that is not necessary or legally obligated. Prohibit the sharing of non-public information, release dates, addresses with ICE for civil enforcement purposes unless compelled by a judicial warrant or subpoena. I'm asking to control facility access, deny ICE agents access to non-public areas of agency facilities for civil immigration enforcement without a judicial warrant. I'm asking to prohibit status inquiries from inquiring about immigration or citizenship status unless directly material to a specific criminal charge. I'm looking to ensure due process to provide any individual subject to an ICE request with a copy of request and notify them of the Cedar Falls Public Safety PD policy regarding compliance. And I'm asking for conducting mandatory recurring training for all personnel on the distinction between administrative and judicial warrants and the agency's specific policies on immigration enforcement. Each of these is described in detail in the pages that I gave you, and it is my hope that this is helpful information for the city to consider in helping its citizens navigate this new environment. There's also a QR code that is shareable if you are deeming it worthy of being shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment this evening? Just name and address, please.
Good evening. Bob Manning, 2908 West 3rd Street, Cedar Falls. And thank you for letting me talk with you for 4.5 to 5 minutes. I had the honor and distinction of being able to meet with President Nook this afternoon for about an hour and 20 minutes, and it was a wonderful opportunity to talk with him about you and I and the relationship between you and I and the city, and also CFU was thrown in there. He was very supportive of our current mayor and past mayor Rob Green and past mayor Jim Brown. Said the city has always worked well with you and I, and that doesn't happen in every community that has a smaller college, and so that's a good feather in you and I's cap and in the city's cap. He's was really pleased with the downtown, how it's been redone and repurposed, and says that's a big plus in the UNI people's viewpoint. But the College Hill, and I understand there's some potential funding coming up down the road for that, but College Hill, he says, gosh, I've had parents stand in front of me and say, we're not letting our student come here because this is just drinking establishment and tattoo parlors. Now, they certainly have a right to do business also, but that was what one parent, what set of parents said to him about the College Hill area. So I'm anxious to see the city move forward on that. We had some comments at the last city council meeting, and some of them were not necessarily all positive about UNI, but he talked about the economic benefit that an extra 10,000 people do for this city and how important it is to keep that good relationship. Said of interest, 85% of the graduates end up here in Iowa, that stay in Iowa, and that's great. The leading city for holding on to students after they graduate or providing jobs for them is Polk County, and Black Hawk is a close second. They've switched places over the years a couple of times. The CFU internet speed is really helpful, and with internet users, they talk about coming here and having other internets in the past, and they've never had the speed that they have here in Cedar Falls. So that was a big plus for potential employers. The CFU internet speed is really helpful with the business internet users, and but all in all, he's just as you know, he hardly takes a vacation, and I addressed that with him for a little bit also, saying, hey, you need to take some time off, dude. It's you got to smell the roses as you're going up the lifeline here. So at any rate, he's very anxious to do what he can to help monitor the College Hill area and what can be done, and sounds like he thought that there's some meetings coming up shortly, I believe, and so hopefully that will be addressed and a plan come forward, and I think the citizens of Cedar Falls will be very happy to see that happen. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Is there anyone else for public comment this evening? Just name and address, please.
T.W. Ingham, 1601 West 19th. Normally I'm speaking in my official capacity, but tonight I'm speaking in my personal capacity, and I need to make clear that any comments I make are not of the official opinion of the City of Cedar Falls. I am speaking tonight on two pieces of legislation that took effect on July 1st, Senate File 418 and House File 856. Primarily House File 856 regarding topics that can be discussed by a city and promoted by a city. I'm going to read two paragraphs on page 2 of that House file, Section 1, subsections D and E. Any effort to promote or promulgate trainings, programming, or activities designed or implemented to encourage preferential treatment of or provide special benefits to individuals on the basis of race, color, ethnicity, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Any effort to promote as the official position of the state entity a policy, program, training, practice, activity, or procedure referencing unconscious or implicit bias, cultural appropriation, allyship, transgender ideology, microaggressions, group marginalization, anti-racism, systemic oppression, social justice, intersectionality, neopronouns, heteronormativity, disparate impact, gender theory, racial privilege, sexual privilege, or any related formulations of these concepts are now banned under this law. That is a lot of topics that are now no longer able to be promoted by any city or state entity, and there is a long list of groups that are listed in that state entities, including, also included in these are community college, AEAs, and any city or state boards and commissions. There is a long list of topics within that paragraph that really bug me. The two that bother me the most here are anti-racism and social justice, basically because of how broad those topics are. Anti-racism to me, I know what they're looking for, but anti-racism to me means that in an official capacity, no city, state, government, or body can promote the idea of fighting against racist topics. That is my understanding of it. I'm not a lawyer. And then social justice, the topic of social justice. That being a topic that is now able to be promoted as the official position of a state entity in policy, program, training, or practice or activity. So at no point is a city or government able to provide training on any topics related to social justice. I have a lot of opinions on this. I am going to hold on to those, but I mainly want to share with the city of Cedar Falls, who may not be as involved in state legislation as I am, that this has taken effect. There are certain boards and commissions within the city who are affected more than others regarding this House file, and whose trainings and policies will need to be altered and have been altered already to reflect this. And again, any opinions that are provided, any comments by myself are not of the city, boards or commissions, or any member of government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ingham. Anyone else for public comment this evening? Just name and address, please.
Kim Jordan, Cedar Falls. Nice to be back. It's been a little while. really want to thank just the fact that we do have a really nice community. Spent 2 weeks in Mason City with an accidental fall, and just kind of trying to be transparent also, and know that we do have a really great opportunity to change the form of government here. And I think it would be positive in the great direction. Using the skills of trying to work and bring in other communities to see the benefit of what we've got before us is something that we can use to our advantage with that progressive move. But it kind of stems on honoring what we have. Kind of what I'm seeing as a universal statement. I so appreciate Rosemary Beach. I think, you know, many of us are very fortunate to know elders in the community, people that have generated and caused positive change in this community, and then hold our values. We've kind of gone through many changes over the last few years, and part of it we could probably attribute to some of our form of government, you know, not really honoring a second division school that was bringing extra dollars into our community, which was tied to the University of Northern Iowa, and losing that competition factor kind of hit hard. I was paying tuition in. I valued that school system. I saw the extra benefit of it, and I would probably do it again. I think in the state, we've lost competitive divisions because of it. I think when we have healthcare monopolies, as we do, and I see the chains of how medical goes throughout the communities, and that's kind of my passion, but yet it's kind of, it stems through everything, honestly. It stems into the environment. It stems into our roads, to how we get there. It stems into the businesses that we have that we want to support. And so, I don't know, I know I feel like an anomaly. It's not just I'm focused on Sartori, but I feel a very heartfelt obligation not to let us not do due diligence to our representation in Northeast Iowa of a community of 140,000 people, when I just spent 2 weeks and 24,000, and they represent 9 counties. And I think Director Birdie would appreciate that, because it's not just fire, it's hazardous materials, it's medical. They have cancer treatment center there. They have been progressively holding their core, but knowing that they reach out to the southern part of Minnesota and most of Northeast Iowa. Those pinpoints of, and I call it a vision that the Mayos and the Sartoris and the founders before Rosemary and the people that on our living watch were seeing, kind of thought that they were setting up. They didn't see the greed and the whole monopoly of let's buy this one, let's acquire it, let's take the good out of it, let's make it down into bad bones, and then pay more, get less back. We're about looking out for all people. And so tonight, it's like, that is one thing that hits those lines so darn hard. And yet, it's the one thing that we haven't put into the capital improvements budget for many years. We've removed the mental health counseling services that were there. We could have had an opportunity to bring the women's clinic there a few years ago during COVID too. If we would have had our strength as a city and we weren't going 70% in with Mercy One. I've tried to reach out to President Nook. I appreciate that you were able to get the appointment call. I put a call in, never got a call back. He was told not to talk to me. I wanted him to look at the high school for potentially another level 1, level 2 teaching school. The hospital would be an amazing fit to go and teach new upcoming nurses in a rural hospital type setting that has 14 acres that we can expand on. Parents coming in would look at that and say, it's a 25-minute walk from College Hill down to College Hill 515 that the city of Cedar Falls owns. They've created that historic preservation. That's the other thing.
Thank you,
3 times I've asked for historic preservation. Form of government change, please allow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Is there anyone else for a public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we will close public forum and move on to staff updates. I believe we've got a few this evening. Director Birdie, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council. I had 3 staff updates. The first one, those already been covered quite well, and that was Sturgis Falls. I would just add that, from public safety and public works point of view, overwhelmingly positive comments. We sure liked it downtown. It gave our officers and paramedics and firefighters landmarks. And that next week there's an after-action review that's going to take place with all the stakeholders and talk about things like trash and wristbands and stage location and areas of improvement, road closures and things like that. So that was it for Sturgis Falls. The other thing, I just had a quick recap on the city fireworks. And by city fireworks, I mean the fireworks that were allowed by the public to use on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. In general terms, from our point of view, looking over the last few years, things were better. People are doing a better job of using the fireworks during the hours that they're allowed. Now, if somebody here had a really inconsiderate neighbor, they might disagree with that. But over the 3 days, we had 29 calls for service, 6 citations issued. Of those calls for service, only 12 of them were for fireworks that were late beyond the hours. A couple were for debris. The majority of them were actually people saying, hey, in my apartment complex, you're not supposed to shoot them off in the parking lot, and there's people shooting off in the parking lot, or there's people shooting off in the street or a park. Of those 29 calls for service, so that's also including the ones where our officers proactively caught people doing things illegal too. So the calls from the public would even be less than 29. Probably most important, zero injuries reported to our team. There was one trash fire one morning. Some people were using fireworks. At 1:30 in the morning, their trash can is on fire. So you would assume that was probably debris. And then, we plan on continuing our educational efforts and get the word out where we sell fireworks and with the neighborhood signs and social media and interviews and all the things we do to try and educate people on when to use fireworks and how to properly use them. So, any questions about that?
No?
All right.
Thank you guys for all the work on it.
Yeah, and the last one has to do with a law change that did take place, and it has to do with 911 funding. And Councilman Cruz had asked a question about it, but the 911 fees are collected by the state, and they charge it to everybody with a landline phone and a cell phone. And what the state used to do is they keep 40% of those fees for the backbone system that gets 911 calls out to your dispatch centers. And then they keep 40%, they release everything else to dispatch centers. So our dispatch center used to get $480,000 a year from the state to help maintain the backbone. Well, now the law change that went through that took effect a couple days ago, the state can really keep any percent they want, and they didn't set an amount. So we're just heading into an unknown where, if they just keep a little more money, it'll have a minimal effect on us. If they keep a much bigger percent, then that's just a bigger part that we have to kick in. And the money on our end, what we use out of our budget, we spend about $45,000 a year. In addition to that money, it pays for, I just made a short list, radios, towers, leases, hardware, software, computers, and the equipment related to the backbone of the radio system. We bought new radios in 2017. We were saving up to buy new radios again in 2027, and there'll be less money being saved up too. That's a problem. And radios do need to be replaced quite often because our police radios and fire radios we use are similar to cell phones. It's just a computer. So, imagine, there's probably not a lot of us in here with a 10-year-old cell phone or a 10-year-old computer, and so. So I think I covered all the details. We'll be adding this in the capital improvements plan going forward. We don't know how much input it'll take from us. And the bad news, the last thing is, this has nothing to do with our cost to operate the dispatch center. So when we talk about the radio backbone, it's just that. Radios, software, computers, it's the radios, the towers, the batteries, and all that. What we pay for the dispatch center, that's paying for the employees, employee benefits, and the people that are actually doing the dispatching, and some computer dispatching software. And we have a significant cost there that you're all well aware of, and that's a formula share between the 10 cities in this county. So I just want to give you an update on that 911 funding change. So, and whenever we learn something, we'll pass on and let you know.
Okay. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
And then, Stephanie, I think we had one other for Ragbri. Quick update, because this will be our last meeting before
Yeah,
show.
well, our next meeting on Monday
we
is
will have
like
one
the
more,
week of, so we'd like to announce it and not get down to the wire. We want to encourage everyone to get involved in RAGBRAI this year. We're hosting over 20,000 people, visitors to our community, so we're excited about that. We had a great test run with Sturgis, and we're excited to do it again. We'd like to encourage on two things: to be aware and sign up for volunteer opportunities, and those you can find on our Cedar Falls RAGBRAI website. So it's www.cedarfallsragbrai.org, and you can do backslash volunteers or click on the Get Involved tab. And you can find all the ways that you can sign up to be a volunteer. We need over 300 volunteers to make this happen, so please consider that. Also, with all of those visitors in town, we will have a lot of road closures that will be happening, and the bike route is coming in off of West 1st Street, turning south on Union, then turning east on 12th Street. We'll go by Birdsall Park and continue, cross over Hudson and continue to Main Street, and then head up Main Street, go under the arch, go along Washington, and then cross the river at Main Street again into the main campground area for RAGBRAI. A lot of our parks will be used as campground as well: Washington Park, Pfeiffer Park, Lookout Park, lots of different parks that will be used. So we will have cyclists throughout the community on our roads, so please be courteous to them. Please watch out for them. We hope that they are doing the same for all of our community members, but just keep that in mind. Plan in advance for some of the impact that you'll have as a business or as a homeowner wanting to use any of those roads. And then the downtown area, a lot of street closures in the downtown area, and of course north of the river in the Gateway Park area and all that surrounding area, there will be road closures as well. A map will be posted on the RAGBRAI website, the Cedar Falls RAGBRAI website, Wednesday end of day, if you want to look more at which roads are closed and a little bit of information about that. So we hope that everyone will get involved, and we look forward to hosting RAGBRAI on Thursday, July 24th.
Thank you, Director. All right, otherwise, we'll move on to the special order of business. Item number 2, a public hearing on proposed Panther Farms Phase 1 urban renewal plan for a proposed urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof publication?
So move. Second.
Motion and seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Daryl, we'll let you jump in there if you were muted.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Was
good.
that an aye for you?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then for Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And then for staff comments, we've got Shane Graham. These following several items are on all kind of similar topics, so Shane will kind of cover them all right now, and then we can jump into those as we go through them.
Would you like me to cover all of them or just one? I mean, obviously we'll be taking different separate actions on them, but.
Yeah, so we'll still come back to them, but if you just want to cover the whole.
Yeah. So, all right, thank you, Mayor. This item is for adoption of the Panther Farms Phase 1 Urban Renewal Plan. Back on June 2nd, City Council set a date of public hearing which would be the next 4 things on the agenda: Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the Panther Farms Urban Renewal Plans. This Phase 1 area is being formed around the Prairie Wind 6th Edition, which is located along Ashworth Drive and Elizabeth Drive. And this area will include 44 new residential lots. With the completion of this final phase of the Prairie Wind subdivision, it will complete the connection of Ashworth Drive from Hudson Road to Arbors Drive, which will create a second access point to Aldrich Elementary School, which I know Council's been discussing that for a number of years now. By placing this property in an urban renewal area, then, the city can use TIF, tax increment financing funds, to provide tax rebates to the developer to reimburse for a portion of the cost of the public improvements for this subdivision. Specifically, Council has adopted a guideline to reimburse a developer 50% of the cost of the public improvements for the subdivision, which include the roads, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, water mains, etc. And then this incentive can only be offered after adoption of the urban renewal plan, and then subsequently after approval of a development agreement, which is later on in the agenda. Part of the legal process of establishing a new urban renewal plan is to notify the local taxing entities, which in this case is Black Hawk County and the Cedar Falls School District. That notice was sent out, and a consultation meeting was held with those entities on June 11th. Those minutes are attached in your council packet as well. And another requirement, again, for new urban renewal plans is that the Planning and Zoning Commission has to review the plan to make sure it's in conformance with the future land use map and comprehensive plan for the city. This whole area that's being proposed in all 4 phases is shown as low-density residential on the future land use map, of which this entire subdivision will be for low-density residential. So the Planning and Zoning Commission on June 25th did unanimously recommend approval of all 4 phases of the plan. So with that, this is phase 1. There's a map and the plan attached, and I will be happy to answer any questions. And like the mayor said, I'll be back for the following phases, and I'll explain a little more on that.
Thank you, Shane. Any clarifying questions for Shane right now from council?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Shane, on the other maps, there's kind of a shadow of where the streets are will be in the development. On the Ashworth, we can kind of see or project where it would be. How's the development of the streets within that area to be done? Is Vera gonna round around, or how's the traffic flow gonna be in that area? Do we know?
Yeah, now in the development agreement, which is forthcoming on the agenda, there's specific exhibits within the development agreement which show, I think there's a preliminary plat already done for this, which does show, Vera Way, which turns into, I think, Elizabeth Drive.
Yeah.
Then goes north and connects with Ashworth, and then Ashworth will complete that connection over to near Aldrich School, and then that's phase 1 of this plan.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other clarifying questions for council? All right, seeing none, we'll open up to public comment then, if anyone would like to speak on this item tonight. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And, oh, excuse me. Yep, go ahead. Just name, please.
Kim Jordan. Because this is so many different entities that we're going to see with Panther Farms, is there a way that LLCs are a little bit more transparent as to like who the developers are? This has been tabled for a couple of years, you know, with trying to get the street to open up to give a second access into the newly constructed elementary school. And it was kind of instrumental in the last mayoral election before you. So kind of looking at, we've got quite a bit that we're going to be giving. And then also a secondary question would be, if we have the council approve that, is the funding that's approved, and if the urban renewal, which would be, I'm assuming, just another tax base onto the Cedar Falls citizens, and then potentially a Blackhawk County assessed tax as well, because it's creating a new division. Wondering how that's going to impact, and if the utilities would get money up front for the water, the sanitary sewer, and the sewer account, or would the city be getting monies right away from that to put back into like the sewer account? Because again, we do have a very old infrastructure, and this had been tabled for many years. I know our regular sanitary sewer has been tabled for many, many years. And if we're constantly throwing the new additions on and we've not addressed the old additions, which run right through the whole core of Cedar Falls, that's a big issue. And I always feel like it's Houston, we have a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. There's a lot of technical things in there, so we can connect with you afterwards on some of the technicalities for the utilities and those things. I will say, just to council, the question about some of the road infrastructure, I know there is some history in there. In the development agreement, there are timelines laid out for when, during each of these 4 phases, that infrastructure will be put in place. But again, that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, that'd be coming in the development agreement later on, has that detail. Okay. Any other public comment on this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and look for a motion and a resolution determining the area of the city to be an economic development area and that the rehabilitation, conservation, redevelopment, development, or a combination thereof of such area is necessary in the interest of the public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the city, designating such area as appropriate for urban renewal projects and adopting the Panther Farms Phase 1 Urban Renewal Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Fitros here, so I don't know if it's a question for Kevin, for Shane, or for Chase. Dirt's moving behind my house, so I take it that means that Ashworth's plotting and then the road are starting. Do we have an anticipated date of when that road would be operational? Will it be ready to go before school starts? Will it be done this calendar year? Does anybody have a good answer to that question?
I don't know that I have an exact date. I can tell you that it likely will not be open by August. We're shooting for at least maybe the east-west portion of Ashworth by the end of the year. So that's our target.
Just great to see some progress in there. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions, discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I think just for help for the public, in the documents that are there for the plan, the owners of the LLC are there, but there's also websites you can go to verify ownership of those LLCs. But it's Brent Dahlstrom and Jim Selenick are the guarantors for this project, I believe is correct.
Yeah, you're right. You can do searches on the state website. I've done that before for business entities, and then also the documents which are in the packet are signed, and like I said, they've got the names on them as well.
Right. I think to that point of, holding these folks accountable, we know who they are, we're doing business with them, and we want to make sure that they have a good deal. We're getting a pretty good deal here too. I mean, the infrastructure that's going in at essentially half the cost that we have to pay for it is going to provide safety for our kids to get back and forth from school. I don't know anybody that hasn't complained about drop-off lanes, no matter which school you're at. But this is a needed improvement to put that connection through, and it's going to provide tax base, and we only have to pay half for the roads. I think it's a good idea to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. And just to Council Member Chris's point, your last name escaped me for saying Latta. The developer representative is in the room as well, if anybody has questions for them. So appreciate you guys being here. So any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That moves us to item number 3, and look for a motion to pass an ordinance providing that general property tax is levied and collected each year on all property located within the Panther Farms Phase 1 Urban Renewal Area in the city of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk, Cedar Falls Community School District, and other taxing districts, be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to an indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued, incurred by the city in connection with Panther Farms Phase 1 Urban Renewal Area upon its first consideration, contingent upon approval of previous item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? All right, also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moves us to item number 4. Excuse me, I can't talk tonight. Public hearing on a proposed Panther Farms Phase 2 Urban Renewal Plan for a proposed urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And for staff comments, again, we've got Shane Graham. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't go into a lot of the background, but I'll just mention that this Phase 2 area now is being formed around what is called Panther West First Edition, which is located to the west of Prairie Winds and north of Aldrich Elementary School, and will include 46 new residential lots. As part of this phase of the Panther West subdivision, Arbors Drive will be connected to Green Hill Road at the north end of the development, and Ironwood Drive will then connect with Arbors Drive, which will then again create an additional access point from that Prairie West addition. Again, the map is attached where you see that it's just basically the north third or so of the Panther West additions. And again, you'll see in phases 3 and 4, they're all similar sized lots, about 40 3 to 45, and that was, the developer did that intentionally to try to create uniform areas of work that they can accomplish.
Thanks, Shane. Any clarifying questions for Shane?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Shane, if you wouldn't mind, the road that's going to connect through there, are we requiring any of the roads to be completely done from one phase to connect all the way through before that phase is finished out, or is it just going to go by phases for the infrastructure as well?
It will go by phases. Are you like on Arbor's Drive, for instance?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Arbor's Drive, you'll notice, will be on phase 3. And again, just because that was such a long area, now it's my understanding the developer may try to do most of that sooner than later, but they wanted to break it up into those equal chunks just so they can have the opportunity to try to do those uniformly.
Any follow-on from that?
I was thinking I saw something about where
Mr.
Richard
Raymond?
Road is connected earlier, since that's partially in phase 3, I guess. Is Richard Road going to connect through as a second ingress egress for that subdivision before the third phase is finished out?
Yes, I've had conversations with the developer on before the final plat of phase 1, needs to be a connection on Richard Road. We understand Richard Road is in phase 2, and so does the developer, but he's willing to put it in as part of phase 1.
And we've got that all in writing?
Yes.
Good.
Thank
That's
you,
all I
Counselor.
have for questions, sir. Thank you.
Daryl, did you say something a second ago?
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Yep,
if
go
I
ahead.
could ask a question. There's this roundabout, which will be in phase 3, I'm assuming, was chosen for that intersection. What was the criteria that said we didn't need one for Richard and Arbor intersection? Just kind of curious. Do you understand my question, Shane?
Is that something Chase can answer?
Yeah, that was an early concept that we worked with the developer on, just propose some traffic calming measures along Arbor's Drive. We really didn't feel that there was a need for an additional one at Richard and Arbor's, as Daryl has asked.
And that was that partially maybe to slow it down as they get to the school?
Correct.
Encourage them to.
Okay, I guess I would look at that and think that there's a pretty lengthy stretch there of arbors that the potential for traffic calming would be good to have at Richard and Arbors there myself. But traffic count or proximity to the school make a difference. But to me, that's a long thoroughfare, similar to what we hear on 12th Street getting complaints. Though it's curved, the speed would pick up as it comes down towards the school. How would we address that issue? I mean, once you build homes in there, it's pretty difficult to put a roundabout in there.
I'd say right now we're kind of just getting technical feedback, so we can come back to that during the discussion for any consideration on the approval. Great. Unless, Chase, was there any other feedback you had right now? Okay. Anything else, Counselor?
No, I was just wondering how we could get a roundabout, consideration for a roundabout at Arbors and Richard.
Okay. Any other questions, clarifying questions right
outside
now?
the scope of our,
What was that?
that's the outside of the scope of this agenda item.
Yep, so we'll circle back to that on the
I'm
final
assuming.
approval for it. So any other clarifying
Okay,
questions
thank
right
you.
now for Jane? Okay, otherwise we'll open it up to any public comments on this item tonight. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and then look for a motion on a resolution determining an area of the city to be an economic development area and that the rehabilitation, conservation, development, or a combination thereof of such area is necessary in the interest of the public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the city, designating such area as an appropriate for urban renewal projects and adopting the Panther Farms Phase 2 Urban Renewal Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none for further discussion requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moves us to item number 5, pass an ordinance providing that the general property tax is levied and collected each year on all property located within the Panther Farms Phase 2 urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk, Cedar Falls Community School District, and other taxing districts be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to an indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued, incurred by the city in connection with the Panther Farms Phase 2 urban renewal area upon its first consideration. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion carries. Item number 6, public hearing on a proposed Panther Farms Phase 3 urban renewal plan for a proposed urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And staff comments? We've got Shane again. Thanks, Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so Phase 3 of the Panther Farms Urban Renewal Plan, again, will be located in the Panther West Second Edition, again, west of the Prairie West subdivision, north of Aldrich School. This will include approximately 43 residential lots, and as part of this phase, Arbors Drive will then complete the connection from Green Hill Road down to Aldrich Elementary School, and then we'll, again, as Chase mentioned, that connection to Richard Road should happen before this Phase 3, but then you'll have another connection then from that subdivision to the east. So this will then, by Phase 3, complete the Arbors Drive connection, and then would also have the Ashworth connection, and then would also include the 2 secondary accesses from the subdivision to the east with Ironwood and with Richard Road.
Any clarifying questions for Shane at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll open it up to any public comment on this item tonight. All right, also seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion and a resolution determining an area of the city to be an economic development area and that the rehabilitation, conservation, redevelopment, development, or accommodation thereof of such area is necessary in the interest of the public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the city, designating such area as appropriate for urban renewal projects and adopting the Panther Farms Phase 3 urban renewal plan. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion second, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. And then item number 7, pass an ordinance providing that general property tax is levied and collected each year on all property located within the Panther Farms Phase 3 urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk, Cedar Falls Community School District, and other taxing districts, be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to an indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued, incurred by the city in connection with the Panther Farms Phase 3 urban renewal area upon its first consideration. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have one more round of this. We're almost there. All right, item number 8, public hearing on proposed Panther Farms Phase 4 urban renewal plan for a proposed urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So move. Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And one more time, staff comments from Shane Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, this is Panther Farms Phase 4 Urban Renewal Plan. Again, this area will have approximately 44 residential lots and will be encompass the third and final phase of the Panther West residential subdivision. As part of this phase, the west end of the subdivision, which will be built out, this one won't involve any necessary road connections. It'll just be completing any of the road connections within the subdivision, as all the major connections will have been completed in phases 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions for Shane at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment on this item tonight. All right, also seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion and resolution determining an area of the city to be an economic development area, and that the rehabilitation, conservation, redevelopment, development, or a combination thereof of such area is necessary in the interest of the public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the city, designating such area as appropriate for urban renewal projects, and adopting the Panther Farms Phase 4 urban renewal plan. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I have just some hesitancy on this one, given, especially as Mr. Graham had already mentioned, these aren't necessary connections per se. The westward connection, though, that would connect us to future development potentially, right? But that's not up to this individual nor this plan. I guess I'm just curious, how do we justify the necessity of it as in the welfare of the community? Is it just for the increase of the tax base, or how do we see this one as necessary when these aren't connections for safety exactly?
Well, I mean, I would go back to the two previous agreements that council has approved in the Arbors and in Hidden Pines. Again, going back to 2023 when the housing needs assessment was established, it's, you know, one of the biggest needs was to establish more housing lots, and by offering an incentive to help get those lots created sooner, and this is part of that subdivision. That's how we feel that the developers moving forward with this entire development, knowing that the city would be working with them on these urban renewal plans in each of those phases.
So this is that beneficial public-private partnership where we get some return for this investment, and it's a long-term return. Right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Shane. Any other discussion, questions from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 9, pass an ordinance providing that general property tax is levied and collected each year on all property located within the Panther Farms Phase 4 urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk County, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Cedar Falls, County of Black Hawk, Cedar Falls Community School District, and other taxing districts to be paid in special fund for payment of principal and interest on notes, monies advanced to an indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued incurred by the city in connection with Panther Farms Phase 4 urban renewal area upon its first consideration. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Just name, please.
Kim Jordan. Just wondering if this whole area that is being determined to be developed in order to get a road to go through and connect to Hudson Road and potentially maybe into University Avenue, is there going to be an R3 development with multifamily or that type of housing to be kind of blended so that each neighborhood section kind of looks the same throughout the whole city of Cedar Falls? Or is this going to be set aside to be more of a large plot? And then is it possible that we're putting too much in that one area and not having different income levels? I know when we did boundary lines years ago, it was, Kim, you're thinking too much. It's going to affect social economic development. And so, you know, we have to make it able to have all groups of people being within the neighborhoods as well. And the roundabouts might be, you know, something that if it is addressed later, you know, that definitely is something that is a conversation. But yeah, are we just going too heavy with that type and not per se going into another area where we feel like we need to expand those neighborhoods to have more residential housing as well?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Just for information's sake, I know for people who don't know about these districts, and again, Shane, I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. There is a percentage of all this has to be set aside for low to moderate income housing of all the amount that goes into it. And if the developer doesn't build qualifying low to moderate income housing in the area, then that money will go separately to a fund or some other source that we can use to be able to help support other low to moderate income housing projects. So while the housing in this, I believe, is planned mostly for single-family residential, it will allow us and give us some of the resources to begin putting into helping address some of our housing affordability in the area. So thank you. Any other?
Mr.
Yep, go ahead, Counselor. Hold on.
To that
Let me
point,
see if one second. Let me close out public comment, and then we'll come back to the council discussion. So anyone else for public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll come back to council. Counselor?
Yes, thank you. To that point you just mentioned about low LMI properties, has it been decided already that money will go into a separate account as opposed to properties that qualify in this development? Or is that yet to come?
It'll be addressed in the development agreement, which is next on the agenda, but just the general premise, if development does not include LMI housing, that percentage is required by state code to be set aside and used elsewhere in Cedar Falls. So that's a state code requirement.
And just piggyback on that with Councilor, the mechanism for that. So say with the development that gets going, they're not going to build LMI housing. What's the mechanism? Does the developer have to find a qualifying source to put those funds to, or do we, as a part of that, keep those and then put them directed towards something?
Yeah, that's something that the county assessor, as they tax, will divide and separate that. And then it's to my knowledge with the housing trust that was created that they will potentially be overseeing the disbursement of those funds for LMI projects in the community.
Okay.
So it'll be up to the city or the housing trust.
Yep. Do you have any other follow-ons, Counselor?
No, that's good. I'm looking at the mechanics or understanding the mechanics is what I was after.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from council?
Shane, I know you already have this in plan, but just for people to talk about, for walkability, for parks, for water retention, that all works out as each area is developed, correct? Or what's your plans?
Yeah, so I believe with this subdivision, they've had a plat or a preliminary plat that's been approved for a number of years now. And yeah, we can certainly work with, with our planning division and engineering division to help establish, hey, do we want some extra parkland, or where can we put a trail? So those are some conversations we can begin having with developers very early on in this process. I know with this development, I think those plats have been, at least the layouts have been in there for some time now.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know this conversation, so tonight it seems like it's new, but this is basically us just getting up to code, or up to, not code, but we've had some changes since we first had this discussion about this neighborhood and this development. And actually, the need for roads has been going on since I was elected. And that kind of got us to where we were in 2023, where we made the agreement to do a half-half share, and I'm looking at Mr. Graham because I want him to correct me if I'm wrong, but at that time we agreed that, hey, to get the road access, it was terribly needed. I don't need to tell anybody that if you've ever been to that area or been to the school pickup, it is needed. So this is not, I guess my question is, we're not slowing anything down, right? Like the road that we were gonna get, and maybe I should ask Mr. Shoggy, that's my only, I am all for this, and I'm all for getting it just basically up to snuff with what we have as our overall economic development incentives. But in the end, I would feel terrible if I didn't ask right now. This isn't going to slow down the progress of getting us a road, is it?
I guess I'll try to answer that, Shane, but the original infrastructure agreement had dates of to install the infrastructure within 36 months from the beginning of 2025. with this new urban renewal area and agreement. The phases that are before you tonight, and you'll see it in the infrastructure or the development agreement later, but phase 1 has an end date of 2028 that he has to certify his debt by Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, by the end of 2028. Phase 1 is the Ashworth section, and then phases 2, 3, and 4 are related to that northern section of Arbors, and they basically have corresponding 2-year increments after that. So it's 2028, 2030, 2032, and 2034 is the last date of phase 4.
Okay. So just to make sure I heard correctly, Ashworth would be at the latest 2028? And what did we think it was going to be before? Just wondering.
Well, it didn't really have times, and
Okay.
the original agreement just had 36 months to complete all improvements.
But that was in 2023, right? I think, ish.
The agreement was in 2023, but the date didn't start till the end of 24 or the beginning January of 2025, which was 36 months.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I think my concern is just knowing that, this really, when we start out, and I'm obviously have agreed to these incentives that we have in place to help with our housing situation. But just to make it really clear, when this all started, it was the developer, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but so we all remember, the developer did not put the road in, and that would have been at the developer's cost. So, I just want to make sure that we understand that, things have happened in the past 5 years, and now obviously we have incentives in place because the economy has changed and prices of housing has changed, and I'm all for supporting development, but I just kind of want to make sure we all remember, just for anybody that's paying attention, at one time this would have been put in, should have been put in, and it would have been at the cost of the developer. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody wants to, but I feel confident in that.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not trying to argue that point, nor do I have the depth of sitting in this seat to that point, but I had a conversation about this that sounded counter to that. Regardless of that point, we're talking about the passing of an ordinance to levy taxes. We're not talking about a development agreement or platting or anything. Can we stay on the topics that we're actually debating during this section of the meeting so that posterity can know what we're talking about when?
Okay. Thank you, Counselor.
Well, Mr. Mayor, may I
Yep.
respond? There's questions that are coming from people coming to the mic, asking things. And so I'm sorry that I'm not quite in the spot where you want me to talk about it, but I am going to talk about it.
I'm talking to the mayor about keeping us on task.
And I would say I do think it's appropriate for this just because we are approving incentives for the area, so having historical knowledge of it to some people may influence the thought about whether or not we should be offering that. So I do think it's at least appropriate to have comment on it. So any other council discussion for this evening? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moves us to item number 10, public hearing to consider entering into an agreement for private development with Panther Farms LLC. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I apologize, I lied. Shane, welcome back.
I don't know why I even sat down. This will be the last one, I promise. So this is the development agreement then with Panther Farms LLC, which then covers the whole entire project, which encompasses the Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4 urban renewal plans. Again, it's approximately 175 new residential lots, and that will create those critical road connections that will create 2 additional access points to Aldrich Elementary School via Arbors Drive and Ashworth Drive. Again, this agreement will cover all 4 phases, so we're not doing an individual development agreement for each phase. This one agreement is going to cover all 4 phases. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that the development is being split into 4 relatively equal phases, so that the developer can kind of work on them and get them done in similar fashion and within similar timeframes. With the residential urban renewal areas, it's a 10-year time period when a developer can certify debt and collect tax increment. That's also a reason why they're splitting it into numerous phases. 175 lots to try to collect increment within a 10-year time frame is pretty challenging. So per this agreement then, the phase one, and Chase had mentioned this a little while ago, the phase one improvements would be completed by no later than December 31st, 2028. The phase two improvements would be completed by the end of December of 2030, and then 2032, 2034. So a 2-year time frame in between each phase. As Chase mentioned earlier as well, the phase one improvements, which is Aldrich Drive within the Prairie Wind 6th edition, and the extension of Vera Way into Elizabeth Drive, they've already submitted construction plans for that, and they actually plan to begin on that here fairly soon. I think Chase had mentioned with the goal of trying to be complete with that by the end of this year, so approximately 3 years ahead of time. So, and then I believe it's the developer's goal then, although they have this time frame of every 2 years, they want to continue to move forward, I think even next year with potentially the next phase. So although we have these time frames built in, I think it's the developer's goal to have these completed prior to those time frames. Again, so the financial assistance requested in each phase, the developers provided estimates of what the cost is for the installation of the public improvements. Again, then what the city's offering then is a tax rebate of 50% of that cost. So they provided estimates. So for phase one, the estimate is $3 million. For phase two, it's $6 million. For phase three is $5 million. For phase four is $5 million. So in the development agreement, we're contemplating tax rebates of half of that, so 1.5, 3 million, 2.5, and 2.5, which is 50% of the estimated cost. The developer will have to submit actual invoices as work occurs that will be reviewed by city staff to determine, to make sure it's eligible. It's eligible public improvements that we can then certify for repayment. Again, with the notion of TIF, again, this is all rebated back to the developer based on the taxes that are paid within that subdivision. So the city's not using any funds from any other sources or anything like that. It's taxes that are paid once houses are built within that subdivision. Those taxes then get collected, and then 50% of that cost gets rebated back to the developer. As Council Member Dunn mentioned, on June 5th of 2023, an infrastructure development agreement was approved with Panther Farms. That agreement contemplated, again, that the city would construct and pay for those several road connections. This agreement will supersede that, so that agreement will go away, and this agreement will then be the agreement that dictates the road construction and the repayment. In addition to the tax rebate incentive, this agreement also includes a forgivable loan in the amount of $400,000. $100,000 of it would be payable to the developer within 30 days after commencement of the phase one improvements, and the remaining $300,000 would be paid within 30 days after the phase one improvements are completed. This forgivable loan was included in this agreement after discussions with the developer because per that previous agreement, the city was carrying the cost of that construction, whereas in this agreement, the developer is the one taking the lead and carrying all the costs and then being rebated. Those costs were estimated to be about $400,000 that the developer was going to have to pay by carrying those costs. So that was negotiated between the developer and the city for that cost. Again, that agreement is included. There's several exhibits which show the phasing. Again, I kind of went over it with the earlier four maps. So if you have any questions on any of the timing or anything like that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Shane. Any clarifying questions for Shane at this time?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just wanted to double check. You said that the original agreement from 2023 was that the city would put in the roads and then be reimbursed half of the development cost by the developer? That's what it's saying in the packet?
Yes, I believe so. Was that how that was worded, Chase? I know Chase was involved in that original agreement.
Yeah, the original agreement was the city was to be reimbursed as each lot sells 50% of whatever that segment of road would cost. So over time, the city would recoup the funds, 50% of the overall funds.
Okay, thank you.
So if I can just clarify for my standing, that original agreement was a 50-50 split on the overall cost of the streets?
Of the construction cost,
Yep.
correct? Yep.
Okay. Any other clarifying questions for Shane at this time, or other staff? All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
I just ask this because I've never developed land. Are all the houses or lots being developed and built by Panther Farms or Panther Builders, or is there like a way that, are they all the same builder, or is there opportunity for other I'm just wondering, just because I'm curious.
The development agreement doesn't speak to that, but since the developer's here, I would ask them to answer that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like. Just name and affiliation, please.
Kevin Fitro, Panther Builders. These lots will be for sale to the public. So Panther Builders may build some homes, but our intention is to sell to the public, to other builders as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions from council? All right, seeing none, we'll open it up to any public comment on this item tonight. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion or resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement for private development with Panther Farms LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item 11, the public hearing on a proposal to undertake a public improvement project for Walters Pond and to authorize acquisition of private property for said project. Do we have a motion to receive and file approved publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And for staff comments, we've got Matt Tolan. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight's public hearing is for the right-of-way acquisition on the Walters Pond Storm Sewer Renovation Project. The city is planning to reconstruct the storm sewer outlet from the Walters Pond Lane to the private Walters Pond. The project will require temporary easements to complete the storm sewer reconstruction. The project will include installation of a storm sewer, grading and site restoration. Plans show the need for easement acquisition from 3 properties. The exhibit on the screen shows anticipated temporary easements needed. What's in green is an existing easement already in place. This will just be to get temporary easements. I can answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any clarifying questions, Matt, at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll open it up to any public comment on this item tonight. Just name and address, please.
John Schofield, 1256 Walters Pond Place. Just a couple of comments and questions regarding this project. First of all, thank you to the city for considering this project. It's been quite a long and arduous process to get to this point, so I appreciate your consideration in this matter and getting this corrected. A couple of questions about access to the property that needs to be repaired. If we could pull up that diagram, the schematic, there is a utility box that is located within the easement. And I'm just wondering how the project manager or how the construction company, whoever's in charge, is going to be able to access back to the easement and the stormwater outlet, and what protections will be in place to minimize the damage to adjacent owners, property owners, driveways, and other property. The only other question I have is who has been the point of contact for the Walters Pond Association? Thank you.
Thank you. And Matt, you want to speak to him?
Regarding the first item, the utility boxes, there's an electrical transformer box and 2 communication pedestal boxes right beside it. That's kind of in the middle of the storm sewer easement, the permanent easement, behind the back sidewalk. We met with CFU on site. The electrical transformer box is not able to be moved due to how it serves the adjacent houses. But the 2 communication boxes right next to it, CFU is planning to relocate those behind the electric transformer box. Access is going to be On the south side electric box, we're going to utilize our existing permanent easement for access to get back there and come back. With the temporary easement we did, we're looking to get an additional 5 feet on either side temporarily just to get back there. Kind of our plan is we will put orange construction fence up on the limits of the project access point. Anything that's disturbed or damaged, whether it be lawn, we'll replace with sod. If it's any concrete work, new concrete would be reinstalled for anything that would be damaged to there. But we plan to access from the end of that lane through our existing easement to get to the back of the property. Currently, all the work's going to be from the outfall point towards the pond itself.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Anyone else for public comments?
Mr. Mayor, missed one question. He asked also who your point of contact was. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep. Tom Bitter's been in the engineering department's been our main point of contact that sent the letter out. I am assisting as well, so either one of us can assist.
I think he was asking who in their association.
Yeah, who in the neighborhood?
Oh, yes. So by law, we have to send these notices to the tax ID address. So the Walters Pond Association goes back to Kenneth O'Brien by the tax ID.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other public comments for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and bring it back. Look for a motion, resolution approving a public improvement project for Walters Pond and to authorize acquisition of private property for said project. Daryl, did you have something before we? What'd you say?
Yeah, I was going to ask, yes, if I may. The permanent easement looks like it's going to be extended when they extend the storm sewer.
One sec, Daryl, we haven't opened up for council discussion yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
One sec, let me do the motion. So do we have a motion, resolution approving a public improvement project for Walters Pond and to authorize acquisition of private property for said project?
So move. Second.
Motion seconded, and all yours, Daryl.
The question, we're extending the storm sewer actually following the bank down, so the splash of the water will be at the bottom of the ravine, is my understanding of the design. So presumably the extension then would become part of our city permanent easement, I'm assuming we'd want. It's not depicted here that way, at least from what I could tell. If someone could address that.
Matt.
Yep. Thanks, Denny. So what we're going to be looking at, it's kind of hard to see, but inside the green zone, there's a little circle. That is where the current outfall is. We're planning on keeping all of the physical storm sewer infrastructure in the permanent easement, but there will be a riprap field that will extend to kind of where that blue line is. It's in the orange zone. That will be a riprap field for energy dissipation as the water will physically drop into a structure and then be coming out the end of the pipe in our permanent easement, and then a riprap field will dissipate the energy in the pond itself. But there won't be an actual storm sewer on the private pond property. It'll be a riprap field.
So it won't be an extension of the existing conduit or tubing, whatever.
No, it'll be a riprap field. Yep.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. I was looking at that as something different. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right. Seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. That moves us to old business, item number 12, passed ordinance number 3112, amending the zoning map by removing approximately 0.58 acres of real estate located at the southeast corner of 21st and College Streets from C3 Commercial District and R4 Multiple Residence District to C3 Commercial District upon its second consideration. Do a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion carries. Item 13, pass ordinance number 3113, amending Chapter 26 zoning of the Code of Ordinances relative to allowing specialized educational facilities in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? And any from the public? Seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 14, pass ordinance number 3114, amending Chapter 5, alcoholic and malt beverages of the Code of Ordinances relative to approval of retail alcohol license by council, city council action affecting license, appeals by license holders, possession or consumption in public place, public intoxication, persons under legal age, penalty for violation of article upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item 15, pass ordinance number 3115, repealing Chapter 23, traffic and motor vehicles of the Code of Ordinances relative to open containers in motor vehicles, drivers, and open containers in motor vehicles, passengers upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. We'll now move to the consent calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the public or council requests them either be considered separately. Are there any requests from council? Seeing none, any from the public?
Hannah, you're not doing 17?
Thank you so much, Chelsea and Nicole.
Great job. All right, also seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve items 16 through 18
Mr.
of the
Mayor.
consent calendar. Wait,
Okay.
Did you say something?
I was curious what numbers, because I don't have a printed copy, but we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, items 16 through 18 of the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
So moved.
Motion
So moved.
and seconded? Did you get a second on that? I think we had like 3 motions.
Second.
but-
Also.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. Now move to the resolution calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the public or council requests to be considered separately. Any requests from council?
Mr. Mayor, number
Yep.
20, please.
Number 20? Number 20. And I am going to pull.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead.
32, 43, and 44.
32, 43, and 44.
Correct.
Did I get those right?
Yes.
And I'm going to pull item 23 and 27. All right, any others from council?
What numbers?
23 and 27.
23 and 27.
I'm gonna fight with all of you.
Seeing none, any from the public? All right, so I'll look for a motion to approve items 19 through 42 of the resolution calendar, excluding items, excuse me, let me restart that. Look for a motion to approve items 19 through 44, excluding items 20, 23, 27, 32, 43, and 44.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 20, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement in support of Mercy One Cedar Falls Medical Center, Mercy One Cedar Falls Foundation relative to a fiscal year 2026 Cedar Falls Health Trust Services funding. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, and Counselor?
Mr. Mayor, just pulling this one is to abstain for a potential conflict. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Just name, please.
Kim Jordan. So historically, according to the minutes of the Sartori Foundation, 70% of the money does go to Mercy One. If we are looking into the future, there is a need to have more services provided. And knowing how the foundation was set up, is there going to be, or a question, can there be redirection as to how that whole trust fund is set up, and that items are supposed to, they were set up solely for the Sartori. However, things get allocated based on the grants that come through. But if we really are honoring the past and the legacies and the heritage as we should, we're kind of giving away more than we're putting back into that foundation. And that is a concern, and these items are totally needed. I have seen different healthcare systems, and it's great when you do update, but the foundation is like gambling, and the house is not receiving all of the things that it is actually needing. So our agenda to preserve and to kind of try to regain a hospital entity or keep it as a functional system of health, so that that foundation flow is coming directly to that, and then that's going to be subsequential with other talks that if we are able to have communication, like was earlier or had been discussed, with some transparency, then where are those foundation monies and interests and so forth going to be going? And is that all changing? And is that a meeting to ask at the foundation board, or is it private meeting with the mayor and the new council, or is it something that we can do, you know, with the new form of government? And then making sure that everyone is able to come to those conversations as well.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. I don't know the technicalities on how all, so we can get you some information and follow up later. So thank you. Any other public comment for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, bring it back to council. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I'd actually, can we just have, because it's not, this is specifically talking about the trust fund's contribution. So I think we can at least clarify that. Can we do that, please? It's a quick, I think, response.
Jen, do you have something off the top of your
Sure.
head? Yep.
One of the things I just want to first clarify is that it's not Sartori Foundation. I think it's the Health Trust Fund Board that Ms. Jordan's referring to. I just don't want there to be any confusion about it being the foundation entity. But one of the things that I do want to just point out is that every year that Health Trust Fund Board, which is a recommending body to the City Council, we do a calculation based on, we have the CPI, we make sure we hold back inflation to cover inflation, and anything extra is then distributed out in terms of that interest income. So I just wanted to clarify that. I think there was a comment about more monies are being paid out than being withheld, and that's actually not true. We make sure of that, and so that also shows that 28 years ago when that was done, those assets have grown from like 8 million to 16 million because of doing that policy. And then at some point, that Health Trust Fund Board, again, a recommending body to the City Council, will be coming forward at some point if there's a request about an economic development agreement with the new hospital to how to use those funds. So I don't know if that kind of covers all of them, the questions you were wanting, Councilperson Dunn answered.
May I? Could you also just speak to, Jen, it's not just Sartori or Mercy One that money goes to.
Correct.
It goes to there's all kinds of different things in the community.
Correct. They have an application process every year, and so that board reviews those. And so oftentimes there could be 7, 8, 9, 10 different entities, agencies that are receiving funding. In fact, most of the contracts were on the last council meeting. We just didn't happen to get assigned one from Mercy One in time to make the council deadline. And so those other, I think, 7 were on the last council meeting, and then this is just the one for tonight.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
Five voting aye and 1 abstention, Mayor.
That motion carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now move to item 23, look for a motion approving resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement to enhance economic development in Cedar Falls with Gross Cedar Valley relative to an FY 2026 economic development grant. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, and I just pulled this quick. We made a few changes to the contract this year to shift some of the funding to the base versus the incentive part. A lot of that was working with Gross Cedar Valley. They've come back to us with a lot more specific outcomes, measurables, KPIs that you'll notice in the contract as well, that much more specifically tie the requirements of this grant to specific activities. And so felt it was appropriate to shift some of that to give them a little more stability in knowing what they have there. But again, to their credit, they brought a lot of these additional KPIs and measurables to us that they wanted to include in the contract. So really appreciate the work they put in to make this a little more specific to some of the work they do. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? So seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 27, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a contract for grant award with the Cedar Falls Housing Trust Fund, CFHTF, relative to a tenant-based rent and deposit assistance program. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, and again, I pulled this one, just wanted to give a shout out. So this was actually, staff put together a great program for us to be able to use to enhance some of our offerings for emergency housing assistance, using some of the funds we have available through the Housing Trust Fund now. And it's kind of just a full circle moment. I know Melissa and our team did a lot of work pulling this together and putting the application together. And so it'll give us about $10,000 to $11,000 more to be able to assist families who need immediate emergency housing assistance. So any other council discussion? All right, seeing none, any from the public? All right, okay. Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item 32, resolution approving amendments to the Panther West Additions RP Planned Residence District Master Plan relative to approximately 54.79 acres of land located north of Aldrich Elementary School and south of West Green Hill Road. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and Councilor Cruz, I believe you pulled this.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. If this is where we would want to have a discussion about the use of a roundabout at 2 intersections there that are 4-way intersections, whether it's a mini roundabout even, or a full-fledged Richard and Arbor Streets and Joseph and Richard. We've had numerous discussions over the years that I've been council about thoroughfares in the city streets that we need traffic calming, and a roundabout at those 2 intersections in addition to the one that's depicted would be ideal. And if this is the point where we want to discuss that, or if this rendition is just what it is, a rendition, and the specifics will be determined later, or how do we go about promoting at least a mini roundabout at those 2 intersections?
Director, could you just speak quick to the process, and is this the appropriate stage for us to discuss that if council wanted to entertain that concept?
Well, with this item, the council's being asked to reapprove the preliminary plat. So yes, intersections are reviewed with the preliminary plat.
Thank you, Director. And then
and we can offer more information about the preliminary plat if you would like. Talk through that a little bit.
If you're ready to jump into it, Karen, but I know it wasn't really a planned conversation, so.
So I think this particular item is about the change to the master plan, and just the only thing that's changing in the master plan with this is the change to the phasing to match the urban renewal areas. That's for the master plan. The next item on the agenda, which I don't think was pulled, is the change to the preliminary plat. That preliminary plat has already been approved with all the infrastructure, the roads, the traffic circle, the traffic calming circle. So that was approved previously. The only change to the plat that they've proposed is the change to the phasing plan again. So that was already discussed. All the road improvements and everything was already discussed with that preliminary plat.
Okay. So is it correct then to what you're saying that item 33 would have been the more appropriate one to discuss the actual plat itself and the layout? And
Yes, although that particular change would be a change to the preliminary plat that has not been discussed with the Planning and Zoning Commission. That plat has already been approved. This is a proposal to change the phasing plan. A change to the road infrastructure would be another amendment to the plat.
And so that would be going back through P&Z and that whole process to review any proposed changes on that.
Right.
Yep. So Daryl, for the sake of your conversation, I think to this council, the discussion is there any interest in proposing that conversation go back? But that's not necessarily relevant to this item. So I would probably say we look for that as a separate discussion. Counselor, were you going to say something?
I'd be very curious, Mr. Mayor, how we go about doing that. Okay. Can I continue?
Yep. Counselor, go
I'd be
ahead.
very interested in looking at a mini roundabout concept, because you think back to 12th Street and Clay, and then various intersections by Quail Ridge over the years, which is also 12th Street, that traffic calming is important. They want to put up, people want to put up traffic signs, stop signs, things like that. And I think now's the opportunity, whether I'm in the wrong numbered item here or not, but you got pedestrian crossing. Presumably people will be going to the school, walking and crossing streets, and with a four-way intersection, you got the length of the streets, the propensity to speed. For the safety of the kids and the general public, traffic calming and pedestrian transfer through the community there. Too many roundabouts would be appropriate to consider putting in there, and I don't know that it would take that much to do it. So I figure out a way to do that if we could amend, or what do we got to do?
Yep. So, and I'll let maybe Kevin or someone jump in. My understanding would be we need to treat this item separately, approve this for the sake of knowing you want to do it and having that conversation. We can discuss it as a potential referral, but I don't think it's appropriate to address it within this item. So we can look at it as a referral discussion here at the end just to see if there's interest from council on that direction. But at this point, I think we need to stick with this item and bring that back at a later point. That works for you, Counselor?
Okay, no worries.
Okay, so any other thank you. Any other discussion on this item for tonight for the specific to the amendments to the Panther West additional plan for the master plan in that district?
Mr. Mayor, just for clarity on that, I guess I'd ask Attorney Rogers to weigh in if there's anything there. If we had a majority of interest in changing that, it would have to go back to P&Z through that whole process again and null and void all of this, setting it back quite a bit. In addition to that, I'm curious for items 33 and 34, whether we need to repass those after passing 32, should it pass.
Yeah, we start over with all those items then if we start making these changes.
If we amend anything?
Yes.
One question. So yeah, no changes in my opinion, but
right.
33 and 34, since they were contingent upon this item, do we need to do anything different procedurally tonight? Because we've waited on 32 until now.
Because we couldn't necessarily approve those other two items till this was approved.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
If something happens with 32 and it doesn't pass, we do have to start over with the others. You're right, yeah.
But otherwise we're okay.
Otherwise we're okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other discussions from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
So hearing what was just said, would it be appropriate to turn down 32, discuss the mini roundabout of some sort, or a regular roundabout at those two intersections, And then, does that trigger it going back to planning and zoning? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Any changes we make to that would have to go back through the full process. And honestly,
otherwise-
it would have to also go back in discussion with the developer to see if they're interested in committing to a development to do that, because it's not necessarily something we can unilaterally force on them to do.
I would add
Well-
too, Mayor, the development agreement that was approved does not contemplate a roundabout there. So what I was saying before, we start backing up major steps here if we change this item here.
So I would say for this item, let's approve this as it is. And again, we can come back to referral knowing that's a big discussion, and we'll see where council is on that. But I think at this point, it has to be a separate discussion to look at going through that whole process.
Okay.
So for
Thank you.
item 32, is there any other discussion on this item for the master plan? All right, seeing none from council, any public comment on this item tonight? All right, also seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Move to item 43, resolution approving and authorizing execution of a supplemental agreement number 2 to the professional services agreement with both Infrastructure and Environment LLC relative to the Main Street reconstruction project, 6th Street to University Avenue. Do a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion and
Second.
seconded. And Councilmember Cruz?
Excuse me, yes, thank you. Reading through the item, it looks like they're adding lighting to these roundabouts that wasn't in the original bid. Is that what I'm understanding? Or why is this now a supplemental expenditure? Or am I reading it incorrectly?
Director, you want to take that?
That is correct. This item pertains to the internal lighting on the roundabout. There's been problems with previous designs of them and the uplighting casting a uniform light on the street name signs. So we have modified that to one that's in the ground that would project it across the entirety of the street name sign. And then the other item as part of this is a letter of map revision that's needed to be submitted to FEMA.
That second part's for item 44, right? Or is that on 43? Oh, sorry, no. I'm confusing my items, so.
43.
Yep. Does that answer your question, Counselor?
To a point, so in essence, this is a redesign or a repair, or more of a redesign for better functionality of the lighting, I'm assuming?
That is correct.
Okay. Then is this something that may then go through the other roundabouts as needed if we determine so?
That is correct.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item 44, resolution setting July 21st, 2025 as the date of public hearing on the proposed rezoning from P Public District to R2 Residence District of property located south of Quail Hollow Lane and north of the new Cedar Falls High School. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. And Councilor Cruz?
While I realize this is just setting the date, if we could get some background information of why we even have this item on here, because it appears that these property owners have put structures on university-owned property, and now they're buying them to get their property, so to speak, through improvements.
Yep. Okay, we'll make sure the detail will be in the back, and I'm sure for the specifics on it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah,
I
go
think it'd be relevant to the import of the hearing. So if we can hear some of that justification, I know it's just setting the date, but do we want the expense of a public hearing if we don't think it's necessary?
Really, Karen, if you want to speak to the necessity of it for why the public hearing.
So some of the property owners along Quail Hollow have encroached onto University of Northern Iowa property with some improvements. And so the UNI offered to either sell them a small sliver of land or they needed to remove those improvements from the UNI land. So some of these property owners have agreed to buy a small sliver of land where they've made these improvements. And UNI has asked the city to rezone those properties then from public. Private entities can't own publicly zoned property. So the rezoning is to rezone those tiny little slivers of land from public to R2, which would then match the zoning of those property owners. Does that make sense?
Follow-up question, if I may.
Go for it.
Given the jagged edge, or the uniqueness of each one of these situations, would it be prudent to give all the property owners along there the opportunity to buy that little sliver and then put a improvement? I know one of them has one on their property that probably wouldn't be interested, but if the city doesn't care or the university doesn't care that we have that jagged property line, such as what's depicted, I guess it doesn't matter, but just curious.
UNI did offer all those property owners the opportunity to purchase 40 feet of land south of their properties, and these are the property owners that have wanted to purchase it. So they did offer that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? All right, also seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. And when it moves to bills and claims, we have a motion to allow bills and claims for July 7th, 2025.
So move.
Second.
Motion second, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Any council updates or announcements?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would echo some of the early comments from previous Mayor Brown and some of the other accolades to the Sturgis events. Certainly congratulations to all the volunteers and to Pete Downs and everybody involved. Particularly, I have my quick story, Mr. Mayor, regarding a young 8-year-old girl that inadvertently had her glasses thrown away into one of the dumpsters at the parade. At the end of the parade, the crew, Katie Gady, Roy Trenkamp, and Ben Boseman, meticulously raked and shoveled through the debris that was picked up on the parade route and found the glasses. So that is another testament to the dedication of our staff in the city, and Mayor and I did go out and meet with the Public Works folks and had a little presentation there. But that's just one of the stories. I mean, I've heard from so many people that were involved that said that the interaction with public safety, Public Works, the volunteers was just above and beyond, so. Side note is that 8-year-old was my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, so.
Gil probably threw the glasses away.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gil.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other council announcements, updates? All right, seeing none, move to council referrals. I will quick, just since we talked about it, look for, we kind of discussed looking to change some of those intersection improvements. Is there a second to want to go down that route of that conversation?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I am not seconding. I am appreciative of the traffic calming, the success that we've had with roundabouts. I appreciate Darrell's enthusiasm about that. In this case, I think it would be a hindrance to the process. Living on 12th Street and dealing with traffic on 12th, exactly what he's talked about. We've got a long stretch of road, and we've got other long stretches of road that I know Mr. Schrage is working on some traffic calming, and Mr. Birdie is very engaged with the public safety, trying to deter those speeds. So we're all going to hang in there and keep educating people on maintaining their speed, and hopefully we can get some resolution to some of these streets that are having these speeding and address those. But at this time, I think it would be a hindrance to this project to move forward with that.
Thank you,
Mr.
Council.
Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
I guess point of information, to have a discussion like Councilor Schultz said, we should have a second for discussion of the referral. And then from there, then each of us can take our turn and give a pitch, whether it's for it or against it.
Yep, thank you. So at this point, we will just look for a second, if there is anyone to second the discussion. All right, seeing none, we'll not move forward with that discussion, and we will look for a motion to, well, any other council referrals? We don't have any submitted, any pressing?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Yes, I'd like to make a pressing referral. This was actually presented to you some time ago. I wanted to discuss the current form of government with a committee meeting, and then also highlight for the public's benefit what other forms of government are allowed under our state codes and ordinances, and be a good timely topic to educate the public as we go through the process here. And speaking to Mr. Grotehouse's comments earlier, that this would be a good timely chance to educate the public, explain what we have, what could we have, what the benefits of the referendum may or may not be, and that sort of thing. So that's what I'd like to make a pressing referral on that. Thank you.
I'll open it up just because he did submit it in writing a while back. Based on some of the conversations going on, we decided to hold off on having that conversation for the immediate time. But it was in writing, so I will open up if there's anyone who wants to have a second on that at this time. I do think there's a conversation that could be had there, but I believe at this point it's something we want to look at here coming up.
And second.
So second for discussion on, wanting to have a discussion on the form of government.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm not necessarily saying it would be at the next council meeting, but sometime quite soon, because we have an election scheduled for November. There are deadlines to file for election. Deadline for the referral is, I'm assuming, the same time as the candidates' deadline would be. And we only have so many council meetings left between now and what I'm thinking is mid-September. So we got one more in July, 2 in August, and 1 in September, let's say. So 4 council meetings. We want to get the process rolling to show the public what's going on, educate the public. So I think it's important to consider this.
And if I can speak to it quick to maybe look at satisfying what some of your guys' concerns are, is that we are currently working on the mutual separation agreement and finalizing some of those conversations. I will plan to bring back to you all a conversation, because for us to move forward with the hiring process for a new city administrator and looking at that, that'll be part of that discussion, because we do need to discuss that aspect of this. So my plan has been to bring that forward as a conversation with everyone as part of that discussion. And obviously, in the very near future, because there is timing with election time periods and referendum discussions and those things. And so this time I plan to look at finalizing some of those mutual separation conversations, and then bring this back as that conversation as a whole about some of that. And again, to some of the point of that's why that conversation's not been had yet. We're working through some of those processes, and I would plan to bring that back here shortly, here probably early next month, if that satisfies some of the discussion you guys are looking for through this.
Mr. Mayor, you actually just answered my question. I know you and I have had some conversation on when a timeline for a conversation like that might happen, so you kind of alluded to the fact that it could be next month. For me, that's sufficient, and I don't need to see that happen before then. Talking next month is 3 meetings away.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I don't see this to be pressing if you have a definitive plan moving forward.
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think having the information session would be beneficial to let folks know in advance of a possible referendum. Given that there are very many petition signatures already out there, I think it would be helpful to have that informative meeting. I also do think it would be timely if we find that this body wants to recommend a change, that we wouldn't go forward with a hiring process if we're going to do a change, and we might not know the options ourselves. So if we could have a committee meeting that's informative, both for us and the public, sooner is better because of the timing of both of those things. They are two completely separate issues, but one informs the other. If the citizenry is going to demand a change, boy, you know, it's a really tough timing to hire a replacement. So I think it'd be good to have a informational meeting. I think there was actually an individual that we had talked, or that had emailed council, that had substantive study and expertise on the subject that maybe could be scheduled quicker than staff research. So maybe we would select that entity to come in and give an informative presentation of what our options are within Iowa code.
Again, I agree to that point that we can't move forward with the hiring process without some of those discussions. And so that would be my intent, is to bring that information to make sure we can be clear on what that process may or may not look like, how that moves forward, and what the options are for the council to discuss.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, Councilor.
Could we then get a commitment from you that August 4th would be this discussion as you're speaking of? That'd be the first meeting in August, which would, of course, the next one is July 21st, and then we got August 4th. We go any further than that, we're going close to deadlines, and people are signing a petition or petition for a referendum, not necessarily knowing what they're signing. To all the points that Mr. Groothouse mentioned, is he running for election? Is he, so on and so on, what he said earlier. It'd be good to clarify that. And you may have somebody say they want to take their name off the petition. I don't know, So just throwing that out there. But I think it's important that we get a date sooner than later. And if, Mr. Mayor, you could commit to that, I guess that's an appropriate ask on your part, then I don't need to continue the rest of the referral.
Yep. Thank you, Councilor. Yep, go ahead.
I don't need a date commitment. I think that when you have the information, you will provide it, and if you'll do that in your most timely fashion, I think we'd all appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
I'd agree, Mr. Mayor, especially if we are, to Mr. Ganfield's point, bringing in the person that wrote the information to us. It can't really speak on their behalf on, hey, August 4th, you've got to be here, or else. So I'm good with the information when that becomes available. August 4th would be great, but see how it works out for that person.
So if I could speak to the timing, with it saying within the month of August, within the next month, having a presentation and information brought forward to council on the information available, options, what all that looks like, but also kind of how that looks for us moving forward with both the form of government conversation, but also the hiring process, because those are both things that we need to discuss.
Mr. Mayor, so yes, I think in August is great. I guess when I think of the words timely referral, to me that insinuates we're talking about this next meeting. And I don't think that's probably a reasonable timeline for you. One thing I appreciate that you've done through your time in office here is you've not wasted our time with a presentation that you've not thoroughly thought out. So I would appreciate you coming back with a presentation just like you've done with your budget or anything else that gives us all that information, and whether that's coming from you, whether that's coming from the resident expert that we've all alluded to, that we've had communication with, that's wonderful. But I don't know that, again, as long as you're willing to say sometime in August, I think that's more than sufficient. And to me, in my vantage point, then I think that also meets a lot of the requests the public's making now to say we need to be informed on what options may be coming down the pike. So I appreciate your comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
I agree with everything that's been said. I chose August 4th just because of the calendar, what it looks like.
Yeah.
If it's appropriate for the expert that we alluded to be available then, and you feel comfortable bringing forth the discussion then, these dates go by pretty fast, and I'm assuming the deadline to file for re-election is mid-September, which it seems to be from my recollect in the past, and that sort of thing. So timely is good. August 4th is up to you.
Yep. And I'll just say from my personal standpoint, this is something I plan to get to sooner than later. So it is an important topic, and it's something we need to have discussion on to make sure we can move the community forward. So point well taken. And I guess we can vote on this too. We got the motion second. So all those in favor of,
Could you reiterate the?
yeah, that's what I was going to say. So right now would be a motion to have me bring back a presentation to council on the form of government, information about that, and then also I would plan to bring that back as a conversation about how that impacts us moving forward with our city administrator hiring process and everything that goes into that as a comprehensive presentation so we can understand what our options are and what that looks like moving forward.
Mr. Mayor? Okay, I'm glad you clarified, because that's not what the motion that was on the floor, as I understand it. That's what your proposal and plan was. The proposal for Mr. Cruz was that we have a conversation the next meeting. So
No.
I guess, okay, can I finish talking? I guess this is what I'm going to say about this topic. I have no problem with whatever the public decides they want for a form of government in Cedar Falls, Iowa. If you have a plan of bringing it forward, that's your prerogative as the leader of this group. But if the folks are putting around a petition, great, good for them. I'm here as a result of a petition. So I don't know why we need to get in the mucky muck. If they get the signatures and get it on the thing, then I'm all for it. That's democracy. As far as whatever discussion you want to bring forward, that's your prerogative. But the motion that I heard Mr. Cruz say, and he can say it again, but it was to have this timely discussion in the August 4th meeting. So what are we voting on here? That motion or what you had already planned to do? Which was, we don't really need to vote on that because that's your prerogative.
Councilor Cruz, you just want to speak to quick what your thoughts were?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I use the word pressing referral because that's the criteria we've used in the past to bring forth a referral that wasn't put in writing currently, but since, as you stated, it was presented to you some time ago, maybe I misspoke to say it's a pressing referral, or timely. It doesn't have to be at the next meeting. I chose August 4th to keep the discussion going. And I did reiterate a little bit ago to say that when you're ready to bring it forward, and you just said also sooner than later, something to that effect you said, which is appreciative. So my referral is basically, you're validating my referral, so it should be unanimous that we are waiting for your presentation to cover the topics of current form of government, state allowed forms of government, and having this person that's well versed in these topics come forward as a potential presenter for us for those topics. So this should pass with unanimous. We spoke of amending it, so to speak, to be August 4th, but I should withdraw that date specifically and say that sooner than later under your timeline. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
I think just there's a point of order and point of privilege rolling around through my head. As a matter of procedure, we didn't ever have a motion for August 4th. The original motion was somewhat convoluted, which is why by procedural requirements, we can request that it be reduced to writing so that there is no confusion. All that said, Madam Clerk, could you read back what you have as the motion on the floor?
Daryl's initial motion was regarding the form of government and what's allowed in the state of Iowa.
No date.
Which could be accomplished by a committee meeting that you would give that information. So we're all in agreement that the current course of action is already underway for this referral. Is that your assessment?
I will say to Councilmember Dunn's point, that is something I'm planning to bring regardless of the referral. So, yep.
As long as it includes the options for our citizenry to be informed. I'm good.
So I guess then, Mr. Mayor, is there even a necessity for this referral if that's what your plan is?
So Daryl, I would ask, since you put up the referral, if you're comfortable dropping it, knowing I'm planning to bring that forward, we can just plan to know that'll be coming in shortly. What was that?
Sure, I was just going to make the point. Sure, I was just going to make the point that it was in writing some time ago, Mr. Mayor, and you stated that. So that criteria has been done, met. whether we vote for something that's coming anyway, it's maybe, redundant, if that's the right word. I just want to get the ball rolling and answer to the point of the speaker some time ago. He and some of the public doesn't see much happening. We're kind of quiet, so we're not quiet anymore.
Yep.
I'm bringing it forward, and you're answering to that. So I appreciate that. So whether you want to vote on it or not, it should be passed because that's what you're planning. So.
Yep. So council, if you're comfortable withdrawing the motion, I'll plan to commit to you. I'll be bringing something forward for that conversation. Darrell, can I have your words say you withdraw that motion?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll withdraw.
All right, so that motion was withdrawn, and thank you, everyone. We'll be bringing back some conversation. Otherwise, look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
You bet.